In February of 2023, the richest man in India suddenly lost more than half his net worth. Gautam Adani, who until recently had a net worth of around $150 billion, now finds himself with only around $64 billion. The reason? An American research firm brought allegations of fraud and stock manipulation against his company. Meanwhile, the man who now sits atop the list of the richest people in India, Mukesh Ambani, managed to recently make $20 billion during the COVID-19 lockdown. Let's take a look at these two as well as the other richest billionaires in India. Coming in at number 1 on the list is Mukesh Ambani, currently worth about $83.4 billion. Most of his wealth has come courtesy of his company Reliance Industries Limited. The company, started by Ambani's family, is a multinational corporation that's involved in a variety of businesses including petrochemicals, natural gas, mass media, telecom, textiles, and more. It's the 100th biggest company in the world. Ambani, who started working for his father at the company in 1981, has led it to massive growth in the past few decades. He's one of the richest people in the world. He's currently at number 9 in the world and the richest person outside of North America and Europe. In addition to running Reliance, he was also put on the board of Bank of America, notably as the first non-American in that position. Ambani was one of those select few who managed to turn the COVID-19 pandemic era into an incredibly profitable time. He did this by selling a third of his telecom subsidiary, Jio, to outside investors. Companies like Google and Facebook bought up the shares, and Ambani got over $20 billion for the effort. He also likes to spend his money on extravagances, most notably his $1 billion house called Antilia. It's considered the most expensive house in the world. As a cricket enthusiast, he's the owner of the Mumbai Indians, a professional team in the Indian Premier League. Until recently, we would have started off this list with Gautam Adani. His company ran into a bit of trouble after it was accused of stock manipulation and fraud. What's remarkable is that despite losing fully half of his net worth, he's still one of the richest people on the planet. Adani is currently worth around $64 billion and sits at number 18 on the richest billionaires on the planet. In fact, his net worth has had a recent uptick, having first plummeted to around $47 billion. Adani chairs the Adani Group. They own ports, real estate, cement businesses, green energy businesses, and much more. And considering they own Mundra Port, the port in his native state of Gujarat, as well as the airports there, Adani has to feel pretty good about his transportation and shipping options near his home. Adani does have some positive stated goals, such as wanting to become the biggest producer of green energy in the world. He has said he's willing to pump as much as $70 billion into that endeavor. Of course, those statements were before his recent troubles. In 2023, an American research firm, Hindenburg Research, reported that the group had been committing stock manipulation and fraud, and the allegations alone were enough to send the company's stock price plummeting. Investors also bailed on him, leaving the company with a $110 billion loss. But it seems that perhaps that downfall has settled, and the company, as well as Gautam, seem to be back in their high-earning ways. Shiv Nadar is currently the 3rd richest person in India. He made his fortune in IT. HCL Technologies went from an idea in Shiv's garage in 1976 to a multi-billion-dollar behemoth. They're one of the largest providers of software services in India and employ more than 200,000 people around the globe. Shiv is now the 56th richest person in the world, with an estimated net worth of $25.6 billion. He sources all of his 200,000 workers from high school graduates. He gives them jobs, trains them while they're there, and lets them flourish. Since the mid-90s, one of his primary focuses has been the Shiv Nadar Foundation. It's a foundation focused on education and student programs for underserved youth in India. In fact, he stepped down as chairman of HCL in 2020, leaving his daughter Roshni in charge so he could focus on the foundation. He's also ranked as the number 1 philanthropist in India, giving $1.1 billion of his own money to the foundation. And his wife Kiran is a major art collector. She has 2 art museums in Delhi that house and display her impressive collection. You know what's also an impressive collection? The vids on our channel. That's why you should definitely subscribe. And it's a lot cheaper than trying to haggle for priceless works of art. Cyrus Poonawalla comes in at number 4 on our list of the richest Indian billionaires. He's worth $22.6 billion, which also puts him at 68th on the list of the world's richest people. He's in the vaccine business, having founded Serum Institute of India in 1966. Since then, he's managed to guide it to become the largest vaccine maker on the planet. Serum now churns out 1.5 billion doses of a variety of vaccines every year, and naturally they joined in on the fight against COVID-19, putting up $800 million in 2020 and 2021 for a factory designed strictly to create COVID vaccines. They developed several partnerships in that process, including with Oxford University and AstraZeneca. They currently produce the AstraZeneca vaccine Covishield. Poonawalla was also given an honorary degree at Oxford of Doctor of Science. He was also bestowed with the Padma Bhushan, a highly prestigious Indian civilian honor. Coming in at number 5 in India and 93rd in the world is LakshmiMittal. In 2005, he was listed by Forbes as being the 3rd richest man in the world. And while it might feel like a huge drop to go from 3rd to 93rd, he's still worth $17.7 billion, so he's probably still enjoying some nice dinners out. He's chairman of the largest steel and mining corporation in the world, ArcelorMittal. Originally, he was in business with his siblings, but then he branched out on his own, forming Mittal Steel. Then in 2006, they merged with Arcelor, a French company. Then they acquired Esser Steel in 2019, forming an even larger company, one that currently has a value of around $80 billion. However, things have been a bit dodgy for them lately. That's because the Russian invasion of Ukraine has sent their yearly net income plunging from $15 billion in 2021 to $9.3 billion in 2022. Lakshmi has actually decided to take a step back from the company, having relinquished his role as CEO to his son, Aditya. However, he does still serve as chairman. He's also involved with various companies across the world. For example, he's been on the board of Goldman Sachs since 2008 and is on the executive committee for the World Steel Association. He's on the World Economic Forum's International Business Council, the European Round Table of Industrialists, and several other big-name councils. And he was honored with the Padma Vibhushan, which is the 2nd highest civilian honor given in India. Next up is Savitri Jindal and her family. They're number 6 in India, 94th in the world, and worth $17.5 billion. The family runs Jindal Group, a giant corporation that deals in power, steel, cement, and more. Sadly, the patriarch of the family, who founded the company, died in a helicopter crash. Prakash Jindal was killed in 2005, meaning the family had to step up and take the reins of the company. The various companies within the larger structure were doled out to his 4 sons. But Savitri, his widow, was made chairwoman. Her son Sajan runs JSW Steel, which is by far the biggest asset that Jindal Group has. Jindal Steel and Power, a separate company, is run by younger brother Naveen. However, Savitri's success is far beyond simply being handed the reins of a multi-billion-dollar company. She's an incredibly accomplished woman in her own right, specifically in the world of Indian politics. She was elected to the Haryana Legislative Assembly in 2005, then re-elected in 2009. She then served as cabinet minister for the Haryana government beginning in 2013. She's also served as the Minister of State for Urban Local Bodies and Housing, as well as the Minister of State for Revenue and Disaster Management, Consolidation, Rehabilitation, and Housing. And while she's been in office, she's simultaneously served as chairwoman of her family's company. Talk about multitasking. Next up is the 7th richest billionaire in India, Dileep Shanghvi. Dileep is worth $14.3 billion, putting him at 112th richest in the world. His dad was a pharma distributor, and Dileep started out working for his dad. The company dealt medicines, usually generic ones, in Kolkata, India. But seeing the process from the inside made Dileep change his thinking. He decided it would be a more shrewd business move to simply build a company that makes the medicine. But if you're thinking Dileep was handed his wealth on a silver platter, you're way off. Dileep borrowed $200 from his father to get his own company started up. That was in 1983, and over the next couple of decades, he built Sun Pharmaceutical Industries from a tiny startup into the most valuable pharmaceuticals company in the country. They have an annual revenue of around $4.5 billion. Dileep's keen business sense has served his company brilliantly over the years, as he helped orchestrate acquisitions of major pharma companies like Caraco Pharma in the US, Taro Pharma in Israel, and Ranbaxy, another major Indian pharma company. The latter deal was closed in 2015, and it made Sun Pharmaceuticals the largest pharma supplier in India and the fifth biggest on the planet. Not bad for a company that started with a $200 loan from Dad. Radhakishan Damani is next up as the 8th richest billionaire in India, with a net worth of $15.3 billion. That puts him at 114th in the world. In 2002, Damani started with a retail big box store and a dream. That store, D-Mart, had 25 stores by the time 2010 rolled around, and then it got so big it went public in 2017. All in, there are now nearly 300 D-Marts around India, and he's considered the king of retail in the country. But he has diversified a bit by buying stakes in other industries. This includes his stake in India Cements and the tobacco company VST Industries. And he's bought into real estate as well, including owning a beachfront resort outside Mumbai called the Radisson Blu Resort. And while you might expect a retail king who owns tobacco, cement, and vacation companies to be a flashy, public-facing type, he's the opposite. He doesn't like to make any public appearances and takes a pass when asked to speak to members of the media. At number 9 is Kumar Mangalam Birla, with an estimated net worth of $13.8 billion. That also puts him at 124th in the world. Unlike a couple of our previous entries, Kumar's wealth is very much an inherited thing. The Aditya Birla Group is his family's company, and he's the 4th generation to run it. He's the head of the company, overseeing an empire that actually dates back to 1857. It started up in the cotton trade in Rajasthan. Today, it's one of the biggest conglomerates and commodities trading entities on the globe. They're involved in a huge variety of industries, from financial services to aluminum and cement, and a lot in between. Kumar ascended to the head of the company at a fairly early age, 28, because of the sudden death of his father, Aditya Birla. This was back in 1995, and despite being a young chairman, he's run the company with a golden touch. It's gone from a $2 billion per year company to a $45 billion per year company. Clearly, all of these people have managed to rake in more money than they'd ever need, unless they started to buy up neighboring planets. Because I'm assuming Mars costs at least a few billion, right? I don't know. I'm going to go look that up. Have any thoughts about the richest people in India? Pop them in the comments section.